All righty, let me just switch this.
No, what do you do?
She's like, we're going to play now. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are here with a returning guest, which is a special treat. We have Stormy and her service dog, Bright, who are here. And you two have now been partners for a little over a year, right?
Yeah, I think it's been over a year since April.
Nice. So a little more than that. So for those that didn't meet you the first time we had you on, tell us a little bit about how you came to be a PADS client.
So I started looking into getting a service dog a few years ago, and I was talking to a local trainer, and I was chatting with him for a while, and I realized that I wouldn't be capable of training my own service dog. So he put me in the direction of Pat, and I contacted you guys, and one thing after another, it took off pretty quickly. And next thing I knew, I was getting matched with little Miss Brite here.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's always an interesting decision. There's obviously way more options for folks now because our government legislation allows owner training, but it is a huge undertaking. And I think one of the beautiful things about PADS is not only is the dog fully trained, but we're looking at a selection at any given time of 20 plus dogs that are coming through training to find the one that is the best match for you in terms of personality. And I know you've talked about that before. Tell us about this match. So what makes you two the dream team that you are?
Well, when I first met Brite, I was quite upset when I had to leave. It was like I knew that she was going to be my dog. And then once I got the call from Margaret that they were going to match me with Brite, I got so happy, and it was just like it was meant to be. And once I finally got her, there was a lot of stress at first and a lot of anxiety, but once I reassured myself that we were the right match for each other and that she was capable of helping me and that I could trust her, it just all took off really well from there. And yeah, she's just been such a spunky dog, and her personality has certainly changed since I first got her, which has been really nice.
Yeah. So for those of you that are just joining in, welcome. Thanks for being here with us. If you're joining us live on Facebook, if you have questions for Stormy or about Brite or questions for me, feel free to post them in the comment section of the Facebook Live. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can click the chat button or the Q&A button and just throw your questions in there, and then we'll answer them live on the air. So tell us a little bit about what the last year has been. It's certainly not been a normal year by any stretch of the imagination, but also your first year with Brite. What has changed over the last year? Have you guys learned new things? Have you bonded more as a team? Like, are you seeing changes to the relationship now that you have kind of gotten to know each other really well? Because I think the first time we interviewed you, you were only a few months into the partnership. So
yeah, it's been really, oh man, it's been such a wild ride. So I think the biggest thing that I've taught her over the past year, I taught her it pretty quickly. I think it was a little while after our first interview, actually, was how to clean up the room. She got really excited with all the toys that I was suddenly providing her, and so she would fill the room with all the toys. And so I was like, okay, buddy, you've got to know how to clean up after yourself. And she caught on to that pretty quickly, which was nice. So she's, she seems to do anything for a treat.
Yeah.
So that's been fun to teach her new things. Yeah.
So she goes and just picks up all her toys and puts them back in her toy box, that kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much. I just tell her to go and get the toy, and then she looks at me with it in her mouth, and I tell her to tidy, and she goes up to her toy bin, puts it in, and then she comes running up to me.
Nice. What a good
Yeah, she's such a smarty pants. Yeah. And then yeah, I think that just our trust in each other has changed a lot in the past year. Um, I think she definitely knows that I rely on her in certain situations, especially if I don't have a mobility device with me. She certainly seems to pay more attention to me almost. Um, Maybe it's because I'm so small next to her. She's like, oh, he's always checking in on me, seeing how I'm doing. It's really nice. Um, what else has changed? Her personality towards other dogs, I would say, has changed a ton. She used to be really shy towards other dogs, and it would take her a while to loosen up. She was more comfortable with dogs she knew. But now we go to the dog park, and I release her, and she just barrels into the middle of the group and just wants all the attention from everyone. It's the cutest thing.
little party girl, hey?
Yeah. She loves the attention from the other dog.
Well, then it's lovely too for them to kind of get into that groove where, I mean, we think we look and we're like a dog park is a dog park is a dog park, but I imagine for the dogs, it's like us, if you're going to the same school or the same workplace or whatever, and you get to know people, like your familiarity will change as you kind of get to know the people in the room kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's super neat.
Yeah, it's been really nice. Every weekend we go to the same dog park and we meet up with the same people every morning. And there's always the same dogs there. And some days there's just a few, and some days there's like more than a dozen dogs. It's great. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great for her to have fun.
Have some. Well, and it's nice too now that the weather is warming up and being able to kind of get out and enjoy it. So tell us about some of the skills that she's been working on. So she's learned to clean up. Is there anything else new or different that she's learned, or skills that you're using more now that you've gotten to know her a little bit better?
I think now that I've been able to trust her more, I've been just using her as a crutch for my mobility a whole lot more. I recently got a new mobility device from a family friend. They gave me a new Segway, and my old Segway was a little bit finicky, and I didn't trust it so much. It wasn't very sturdy, so I was always a little bit worried that I was going to fall off.
Yeah.
But this new Segway is really stable, and it's higher off the ground, so I have more clearance. So we're able to go to more like walking paths and parks, and it's just been a blast to be able to go out there with her, and then also get off the Segway and use her as a crutch to go up further or go climb on top of a rock or something just for fun. Yeah, it's so great to be able to get that little taste of hiking with her.
Yeah, I think that was probably my favorite part of the grad presentation with the two of you, is that little video of you climbing on the rocks at the beach and just thinking like, just kind of like the figurative kind of doors that she's opened up, right? That, I mean, wheelchairs and beaches just don't get along, right? And so to be able to
They really don't.
get down there into the sand or onto the rocks, that kind of thing is fantastic.
Yeah, and even once I'm down there, it's pretty difficult, but having her next to me and having her know that I need her is
Yeah.
is really something. Yeah.
Yeah. And how is she able to kind of like switch gears really quickly? Like if you were down on the beach and you released her to just like run and play, but then wanted to kind of carry on, is she able to kind of do that flipping back and forth fairly easily, or do you tend to keep her in working mode when you're out there?
That's something that I've noticed a big difference in if I'm in a mobility device or not. If I'm in my wheelchair, she seems to know that I don't need her very much, and she'll kind of test me, be like, "Oh, let me play a little longer." And so I'll just be like, "Okay," and then I'll call her back a minute. But if I'm not in my wheelchair or Segway, she just comes back to me immediately, and she checks in, and it's like she's saying, "What do you need?" You know? And yeah, it's amazing to watch the difference almost in the situations where she knows I'm going to need her physically versus more enjoyably.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It is interesting how they start to kind of, yeah, understand what some of those visual cues are. Um, I've talked about this before, but like when I'm really unsteady, Cadence is far more in tune, like with where am I and do I need her? Whereas if I'm having a really good day where my balance is good and everything else, she's just like, I'm just going to be a dog and play with my toys and like,
exactly. Yeah, they're like, "All right, well, let's go to the park again. You're feeling good. Let's have some fun."
let's go. So, um, dogs are so smart. I'm just reading, I'm scrolling through. I realize we're chatting away here and I'm not looking at questions. So I think we answered a couple of them. A couple of people were asking what type of PADS dog is she? So she is a PADS service dog. She provides kind of mobility support to Stormy. So do you want to go through just what some of her skills are in terms of like the things that she's been trained how to do to help you?
Yeah, when I'm at work and out in public, I'm usually in my wheelchair, and so she provides me with being able to stay in my wheelchair, and I don't have to get in and out of it so much. And so she can retrieve items for me. She's also able to help me get in and out of the wheelchair, which is nice. Um, she's able to help me transfer with public washrooms, which is nice, so I don't have to touch the toilet.
Yeah.
Being small is very difficult in an average size world.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's been a great help in those aspects. And then at home, it's really nice. I can just lean on her, and she helps me walk from room to room. If I'm having a good day, of course, she'll know that I don't need her as much. Nice. We can play around a little more. But yeah, other than that, yeah, she just provides mainly the mobility support with me has been the biggest aspect of change I've noticed. But yeah,
Yeah. You touched on something interesting there. No pun intended. Is just, yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't really thought um, on a level about that. Yeah, like that there are things that like, if even just like touching certain things, especially during COVID year, right? Like whether it's door handles or different things or, grab rails, toilets, etc. So she's like, no problem. I got you.
yeah, she certainly loves doing the buttons and doors and tugs for me. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's another big one. That being able to not have to touch so many things in public,
Yeah.
especially in this day and age.
Yeah. Well, that is awesome. So I'm just scrolling through questions here. Yeah, somebody, Fuji's people were saying that they love following the two of you on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm following you two. I have to go find you now. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them into the comment section on Facebook, or you can also throw them into the Q&A box on Zoom if you're watching from Zoom. Is there anything else that you want to share about kind of how things have sort of evolved with Brite over the last year? As we wait and see if more questions come in. Oh.
I think just getting used to having a dog has been the biggest pain for me. I'd never had a dog before in my life, so
Oh, wow.
yeah, so getting thrown this incredibly intelligent animal. But I feel like she's helped me mature a lot over the past year as well, and how to deal with situations, and how to how to speak about her and about dogs, and yeah,
Yeah.
not sound, I don't know, like I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I used to always get so nervous, so she provides me with that comfort in knowing that I don't need to be.
that's awesome. And that's, I didn't know that. That's, I can't imagine I going from never having, like, having a dog is just such a huge learning curve, but having a dog and then having a service dog as your first experience, that has to be a very, very lot of information to kind of absorb in a short time. So, which is interesting. The next question, Sabrina's adding, was your bond with Bright immediate? Like, did you feel like you kind of clicked and connected, or was it something that grew over time?
I definitely felt like she was meant to be my dog right away. But there was the first week or so, I was very emotional about it all. I was just so anxious and questioning all of it. And I knew that I could take care of her because I was, but I was just having so many doubts in my head that I was just so emotional about it all. And Bright could definitely tell that I was feeling some sort of way. And after that first week, though, Bright seemed to kind of change her attitude towards me, and you could tell that I needed some comfort in the situation. Yeah, it was almost like our attitudes toward each other changed. And yeah, we just started to get closer from then on out. Yeah.
That's so cool. So Kareen's asking, what would you say to someone thinking of getting an assistance dog to help them decide if it's the right decision for them?
Hmm. I think just thinking long and hard about your daily routines and how they would be able to help you. Um, there's a lot of situations where I'm doing something, then Bright will just pop up and she'll be like, "Do you need help?" And I'm like, "No." And so knowing how to make sure that I'm involving her in enough things, that was something I needed to get used to at first. I I didn't I wasn't using her as much as I could have, I guess you could say. I I would drop something and forget that I could use the dog to get it. So I would get um or I'd close the bathroom door behind me, and I'd be like, "Oh, the dog's laying down. I don't need to bother her to go and close the door." And then I'd be like, "Wait a second. This is the exact reason that I got her." So knowing that, yeah, just to have her next to me all the time, and knowing that in, involving her in everything that I do is beneficial to her. She wants to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it helps the dogs when they have that job and they know that they've got that purpose. I went through a medical thing with Cadence for a couple of weeks here, and she wasn't able to do her normal stuff. Like a lot of what she does for me is retrieves, and she was recovering from mouth surgery. And so
Mm.
we couldn't do that. And it was interesting, kind of once she got over the initial recovery, how squirrely she was because she didn't have that thing to like engage her brain, right? Like to
Yeah.
kind of that purpose. And so, yeah, so now that she's back in action, I'm like, yes, like you actually enjoy doing these things and it's good for your well-being. It's not an inconvenience to ask. So I love, we
Mm-hmm.
got a comment from one of our other clients, Nicole, saying, thanks so much for being honest about the issues of getting your first dog and bonding with Bright. I've had similar experiences with both my Pad's dogs. It really does. It takes time to bond and to grow that relationship and kind of, yeah, there's a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings. And I know other clients have said too, like, I don't want to wreck the dog. Like, I want to make sure that I'm keeping all the training and everything up, but it's a lot of pressure. Like, so much has been put into them in terms of time and training. And so I know for myself, I think that and I think it's one of those like positive, negative like things where it's that pressure is a good thing because it reminds us how important it is to kind of keep those skills up, but at the same time, not to the point where, it's making us super emotional, right? Like that,
Mhm.
don't need to beat ourselves up either, right? So,
I think that right, that reminds me. I think another big thing about having a pad dog is if you're in a mobility device, it's kind of hard to judge how fast you should go with them sometimes, um, and like what a good speed for them is. Um, about like 6 months ago or so, Bright had gotten a shoulder injury, and she had to spend some downtime for a while and heal it off. And that kind of put in perspective for me that I was going too fast with her all the time. It seems like we were running everywhere. And so, okay, I need to slow down with her. Nothing needs to be in such a rush. So, yeah, knowing to go slow for a block, and then we can run for a block, and then we can kind of jog for a block, and go slow.
yeah.
Just always mixing it up and changing speeds with her has really helped a lot.
Well, and I think it's one of the beauties of mobility device, but also you're absolutely right. Yeah, not overdoing it. I know there was a period of time when it was just super busy during the week, so I wasn't getting out like kind of every day for runs, and so we would go on the weekend. And yeah, like the possibility for injury if it's not kind of like you can't do that weekend warrior thing with dogs where you go super hard one day and then not
Mm-hmm.
at all. And so it's kind of trying to pace it out so that
Making sure that it's steady.
it's steady, and or just that like when you are doing the weekend thing or whatever, if that is the case, that it's maybe not quite as intense. Cadence loves to run, but yes, I've seen the same thing where she's like, oh, this is all too much. um and kind of slow down. So the beauty of mobility devices, but good life lessons too, to like
Yes.
slow down the roses a little bit and not have to take everything at 30 miles an hour.
Mhm.
Okay, well, we were coming up on time, so if anybody has any last minute questions, I'm just scrolling to see if I missed any. Just hello to everybody who is on here. If you're on the Zoom,
Bye.
feel free to post any last minute questions in the Q&A, but I think we got everything from Facebook here.
Gotta
So,
be cute for the people.
oh, bright, 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 bright.
Something fun about Bright is that she loves this one cashier at our local grocery store named Betty. She's this lovely lady who just Bright, as soon as she sees her go, oh, hello. Bright just, her tail gets going. She just starts wiggling, and she's just so happy to see her every time. The sweetest.
Interesting how dogs like people click with certain people. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Oh, so we have two more questions. So does Bright ever help pull your wheelchair? I don't think you use a manual chair, do you?
No, she doesn't help me pull a chair, but when I'm on walking next to her, she will help pull me like, up onto a rock, or if we're walking uphill, she'll help me pull me uphill, so I can grab onto her vest and she'll pull my weight a little bit forward.
That forward momentum. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. And then somebody else is asking, how long did you wait for Bright? And um so from the time you applied to pads to when you were matched, it was quite quick, wasn't it?
It was quite quick. I believe that she had a previous match that fell through, which was why it was quick.
Yeah.
But I think it was only 5 or 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think the other thing to kind of temper that with is that our wait list is not first come, first serve. We do
Mhm.
certainly give priority to returning clients. So if somebody has had a PADS dog from us before, they kind of will be kind of at the top of the queue for a dog that is the right match for them. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the first dog that is available will go to them, because every dog is different in terms of their skills and their abilities, etc. So, I know we always have a few clients on our list that are waiting. So, Bright obviously was not a match for some of those returning clients because she went to you as a first time client. So
Mhm.
yeah, so our wait list is definitely, it's an interesting beast, because it's always trying to find, like, okay, we have this dog who's really good at these things, that is, this size and this temperament, and then trying to find kind of the right person to match them up with. So um and then Sabrina says, this might be a cheeky and or personal question. Does she sleep with you, or does she still sleep in a kennel or on a dog bed?
She sleeps with me every night.
Yeah, I'm like,
She's spoiled.
so Sabrina's one of our volunteers. So one of the things that we reserve for the client to make decisions about is, once you allow a dog on furniture, it is very, very hard to get them off. But that is a decision we leave up to the client when they are matched with the dog, if they want to allow them on furniture or on the bed, etc. So, and but yes, Bright is one of the, like, it's not
she's,
for
she's
everybody,
one
and
of the spoiled girls.
it's also not every dog. Like,
It
um,
helps that I'm so small and the bed's so big.
well, I love, because Cadence is also allowed on the bed, and she'll come up and she'll cuddle, like if I'm watching TV or something before I go to sleep. But then I would say within minutes of me falling asleep, invariably, like, I just hear her get up and get off, and she goes and lies on her dog bed. I think she
She knows.
like, I would be quite happy to have her sleep there all night, but I think she's more comfortable. Like, I don't know, just like some people, right? Like, some people just
Yeah.
like,
She's like, oh, I want to sprawl out.
yeah, but, oh, so Sarala, who was one of Bright's raisers, says, there was a woman at Starbucks who Bright loved like that when Bright was with me. She still asks about Bright all the time. That is so sweet. So yeah, it's quite funny how they just impact people wherever they kind of come across them. So um just sorry, I just realized there was like a whole flood of questions, but I don't know if I got through them all. So just let me clear them. Oh, I think I did. All right. The last one was just a comment. Um, yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. It was lovely to have you back. It's nice to see how things have progressed. I laugh every day. I have to tell this last story. Every time I see Bright, she's got this little scar on her face. And I remember our trainer in Calgary calling it her bump of knowledge, because she was a sassy little puppy who apparently had something to say to an older dog, and got taught that perhaps we shouldn't be quite so sassy. But fortunately, no harm done, just a lovely little reminder. But oh my goodness, Bright, you are the cutest thing. So, well, thank you too so much for being here. And thanks everyone who joined us and kind of tuned in. Huge thank you to our lovely Lanny, as always, for keeping up with us fast talkers with our closed captioning. And we will be back here with you next week with another guest. So to follow who our guests are that are coming up, I know we're in like the final stages of finalizing this month. It's actually PTSD Awareness Month. And so we're going to have a few guests on that are going to kind of talk about PTSD in general and kind of help educate us a little bit on um, that program that we run. And Sabrina's just saying thank you so much for sharing your experience and for appreciating this beautiful girl, hard work to make her part of your family. So I love that. I think that's a great thing to close on. So if anybody wants to find out who's coming up, feel free to go ahead and check out pads.ca/tune in Tuesday. And there's hyphens between the tune and the in and the Tuesday. And you can also register there to get an email each week that lets you know who our guest is going to be. So if you want just that little nudge each week. And thank you all so much. We'll see you soon.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.